We all think we know when a baseball game ends. Professional baseball, 9 innings. High school baseball, 7 innings. Except that's not always how it actually works. Games can be called, they can be suspended, they can be regulation games, or they can end up as no contest. And depending on how we get there, umpires need to know what the final outcome of the game should be. So in this video, we're going to break down those situations. We'll look at extra innings, rain, darkness, light failure, and how each of those affect when a game ends and how it's recorded. We'll start by walking through the rules that govern how a game ends, and then we'll apply them to real situations so you know how to make the right call on the field. Hey everyone, Patrick Farber here with GHSA Baseball Umpire Development and Umpire Classroom, where we help umpires develop their knowledge and skills. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and you can find more educational content at umpireclassroom.com. And this lesson is supported by the National Association of Sports Officials, which you can join through the link in the description. Let's get started. Let's start with the definition of a regulation game in 2-17-1. A regulation interscholastic game is 7 innings, turns at bat, for each team unless shortened as in 4-2-2 and 4-2-3, or unless extra innings are necessary to break a tie score. That definition points us to section 4-2, which covers ending a regulation game. 4-2-1, a regulation interscholastic game consists of 7 innings, turns at bat, unless extra innings are necessary because of a tie score, or unless shortened because the home team needs none of its half of the 7th, or only a fraction of it, or because of weather or darkness. The rule I just gave you is kind of a spoiler of what is coming in Articles 2 and 3, but don't worry, we'll fully break those down soon. I do want to point out that 4-2-2b does tell us 2 7-inning games shall constitute a doubleheader. So if we are working a varsity doubleheader, they cannot shorten either game as they potentially could in professional or collegiate baseball. Now, we already mentioned that a game can be shorter than 7 turns at bat for each team. That's clarified in 4-2-2. It says, the game ends when the team behind in score has completed its turn at bat in the 7th inning, or any inning thereafter if extra innings are necessary. If the team scores a go-ahead run in the bottom of the 7th inning, or in any extra inning, the game is terminated at that point. There is also an important note at the end of this in 4-2-2A, which says, if an over-the-fence home run is hit, all runs score before the game is terminated. Now, this feels obvious to us as baseball fans, but this is where it lives in the rulebook. If the visiting team has completed its at-bats and the home team is ahead, the game is over. We do not need to play the bottom of the inning. If the home team scores a walk-off run in the bottom of the 7th or in extra innings, the game ends immediately. On the flip side, if the visiting team is leading after the home team has completed its turn at bat in the 7th inning, the visiting team wins. And in extra innings, both teams get their turn. If the home team completes its at bat and the visiting team is ahead, the visiting team wins. The key thing to remember is this. When the home team scores the go-ahead run in the 7th inning or later, the game immediately ends, except in the case of an over-the-fence home run where all runners, including the batter runner, must be allowed to score. That's why it's important for us to observe all the base touches, including home plate, on a walk-off home run. Now, let's go back to the definitions in Rule 2-17. Article 2 defines a called game. A called game is one which is ended by order of the umpire in accordance with Rule 4-3. We'll come back to that rule in a minute, but note that Rule 4-3 deals with games ending due to weather or darkness. Next, Article 3 defines a suspended game. A suspended game is a called game to be completed at a later time. This is where umpires start to get tripped up. A suspended game is a type of called game. A regulation game is also technically a type of called game. The phrase called game does not mean the game is over and we record a final score. It also does not mean the game never happened. Called game simply means we are done playing for today. Now, there's another type of game that isn't defined in Rule 2-17, but we find it in Rule 4-2-1. That's a forfeited game. It tells us that a forfeited game is regulation regardless of innings played. That becomes important in several situations. But right before that, the rule says each team must have 9 players in its lineup throughout the game. 4-41F Note 2. Otherwise, the game will be forfeited. Now, I know what you're thinking. That rule just said, verbatim, that each team must have 9 players throughout the game. But if we keep reading, the rulebook immediately contradicts itself. If we go down to Rule 4-4, which covers forfeited games, we see Rule 4-4-1F. A game shall be forfeited to the offended team by the umpire when a team is unable to provide at least 9 players to start the game or provide 8 players to finish the game. Notes: 1. An out will be called each time that spot in the batting order comes to bat. If the offensive player must be substituted for after reaching base, the most recent batter not on base is allowed to run for that player. 2. A team playing with fewer than 9 players may return to 9 players. So yes, the rulebook contradicts itself, but the casebook supports what's written in the forfeit section. The key takeaway is this: you must have 9 players to start the game, and after that, you may continue with 8. Now, let's go back to 4-2-1, where it discusses why a game may be shortened. A game can be shortened because the home team doesn't need any or all of its full turn at bat in the 7th inning. It can also be shortened because of weather or darkness. That is explained in Rule 4-2-3. If weather or darkness interferes with play so that the game is ended by the umpire, it is a regulation game, A, if 5 full innings have been played, or if the home team has scored an equal or greater number of runs in 4 or 4 and a fraction turns at bat than the visiting team has scored in 5 turns at bat. Or B, if play has gone beyond 5 full innings. If the game is called when the teams have not had an equal number of completed turns at bat, the score shall be the same as it was at the end of the last completed inning, except that if the home team in its half of the incomplete inning scores a run or runs which equal or exceeds the opponent's score, the final score shall be as recorded when the game is called. Remember, called game just means we are done playing today. It does not tell us how the game is recorded yet. If a game is called because weather or darkness prevents further play, then the game may be regulation if it meets those requirements. 5 full innings have been played, we either go back to the last completed inning or keep the score at the time the game was called, depending on what the home team did in that incomplete inning. Now, using rules 4-2-1 through 4-2-3, we've covered regulation games, extra innings, and when a game becomes regulation before completing 7 innings. But if we haven't reached that 5-inning mark, then we may be dealing with a suspended game, and that depends entirely on your state association. It's covered in Rule 4-2-4. A state association may adopt game-ending procedures that determine how games are ended, including suspended games. If a state does not adopt game-ending procedures, then the game may be terminated or shortened by mutual agreement of the opposing coaches and the umpire-in-chief. If a state association has adopted game-ending procedures, only those procedures may be used unless the opposing coaches wish to terminate the game. This is critical. States must decide whether games can be suspended. Umpires do not get to invent that on the field. This plays into Rule 4-3, which covers a called game, and says, if a game is called before the completion of the number of innings and conditions as specified in 4-2-3, 4.5 or 5 innings, the umpire shall declare the contest no game unless play is terminated by 4-2-4, state-adopted suspended games. So, if your state does not allow suspended games and you haven't reached regulation length, the game is a no game. That's why it's so important to know your state's bylaws. And before this overwhelms you, remember this. If you're unsure how a game should be recorded, you do not need to solve it on the field. You can tell the coaches that the state association will determine how the game is handled. That is perfectly acceptable. Now, let's walk through a few common scenarios. If 5 innings have been completed and either team is leading when a game is called for weather, the game is regulation. If the home team takes the lead in the bottom of the 5th before the game is called, that game is also regulation. If the visiting team is leading in the bottom of the 5th when the game is called and the home team has not completed 5 turns at bat, then the game is either a suspended game or a no game depending on your state. If the score is home 4, visitors 3 after 5 innings, and in the top of the sixth, the visiting team scores 2 runs to take a 5-4 lead, and then the game is called for weather, the score reverts to the last completed inning, and the visiting team loses. That feels weird, and it is weird. That's why many state associations adopt suspended game procedures that mirror official baseball rules, where that game would be suspended instead of reverting to the last score at the end of the last inning. Don't be surprised if that's how your state handles it. Before we leave Rule 4-2, we need to talk about darkness versus light failure. Darkness means the field does not have lights. The sun is going down and it's literally getting too dark outside to see. Light failure is not darkness. If the lights stop working, it's light failure. Light failure can never result in a regulation game. It can only result in a suspended game. Of course, the reason for this is obvious. Light failure could be intentionally caused. Because of that, games stopped due to light failure are always suspended, never regulation. This is backed up in the casebook. Now, let's talk about who has authority when the weather comes into play. Rule 10-2-3E tells us the umpire-in-chief's duties include to call the game if conditions become unfit for play. That does not mean you ignore input from others and make the decision entirely on your own. If a coach knows his field and tells you it needs to be tarped now to save it, you should probably listen. If there's a groundskeeper, especially at a professional facility, and they tell you the field is done, you should listen. You have authority, but that does not mean you operate in a vacuum. Now let's go to Rule 5-2-1B, which says, time shall be called by the umpire and play suspended when the umpire considers the weather or ground conditions unfit for play. After 30 minutes, the umpire may declare the game ended. That means the first step is always to stop play. But note, a rain delay is not a suspended game. It is simply a stoppage of play. Then, after 30 minutes, if conditions are clearly not going to improve, you may call the game. At that point, we can try to determine whether the game is regulation, suspended, or a no game. Finally, let's talk about forfeits. Rule 4-4 gives us the reasons a game may be forfeited. Late arrival, refusal to play, failure to comply with an ejection, persistent delay tactics, willful and persistent rule violations, not enough players, failure to prepare the field. I'm going to be very clear here. If you ever forfeit a game, you have probably screwed up just as much as one of the teams. I have never seen a situation where a forfeit was truly the best outcome, or frankly, the correct one. Every one of the situations mentioned here should be managed long before it reaches the point of forfeit. If you think you're approaching a forfeit situation, you should leave the field and call your assigner or your state association before you make a drastic call. Because more than likely, if you forfeit a game, you are also forfeiting your chances of working meaningful games in that association. Forfeits should only happen when the behavior is so egregious that an athletic director would be justified in firing a coach for it. If it hasn't reached that level, do not forfeit the game. Our job is to get a regulation game played, not to find the technicalities that might allow us to get out of the game. So don't pull this trigger unless your state association tells you to. So now that we've covered the rules, let's jump into the case plays. Case play number 1. In the bottom of the 6th inning, with the home team ahead 6-1, the lights go out. They were on a timer that the groundskeeper failed to disable. It is determined within 10 minutes by game management that the lights will not be able to be turned back on tonight. Is this A, the game is over immediately and the home team wins? B, the game is over after 30 minutes and the home team wins? C, the game is over and the home team forfeits? D, the game is over after 30 minutes and the home team forfeits? E, the game is suspended once it is determined the lights will not be turned back on? Or F, the game is suspended after 30 minutes? The correct answer is E. This is light failure, not darkness. Light failure can be manipulated, so it can never result in a regulation game. Once it's determined the lights will not come back on, the game is suspended. Because this is not weather related, we do not need to wait 30 minutes. That waiting period only applies to weather. Case play number 2. In the bottom of the 6th inning, with the home team leading 6-1, the lights go out. While waiting for the lights to be restored, heavy rain begins. The lights eventually come back on, but the field is now unplayable. Is this A, the game is called and the home team wins, B, the game is called and the home team forfeits, C, the game is suspended? The correct answer here is C. Whenever play is stopped, the original reason for the stoppage controls how the game is handled if play cannot resume. In this case, play was first stopped due to light failure, not weather. Even though rain ultimately makes the field unplayable, the game is still suspended because the initial stoppage was caused by light failure. Case play number 3. Which of the following are acceptable for a varsity doubleheader? Select all that apply. A. Shorten both games to 6 innings. B. Shorten game 1 to 5 innings and play game 2 at 7. C. Combine the games into one 9-inning game. D. Combine the games into one 14-inning game. E. Add a time limit to either or both games. F. Shorten both games to 5 innings. G. None of the above. The correct answer here is none of the above. Both games in a varsity doubleheader must be 7 innings. The rulebook does not give us flexibility here, even if we don't like it. Case play number 4. What is the minimum number of innings that must be played for a game ended by weather or darkness to be called a regulation game? A. 3.5, B. 4.5, C. 5.5, D. 6.5, E. 7. The correct answer is B. 4.5 innings. After 4.5 innings, the visiting team has completed 5 turns at bat. If they're trailing at that point, the game can be regulation without playing the bottom of the 5th. Case play number 5. The visiting team only has 8 players to start this game. Is this A, they must forfeit, B, they may start with 8 players with no penalty, C, they may start with 8 players and take an automatic out? The correct answer here is A. A team must have 9 players to start the game, so this is a forfeit. Case play number 6. The visiting team starts with 9 players. In the top of the 5th inning, their third baseman singles and then pulls his ACL after reaching first base. There are no substitutes available. Is this A, the game is over and the visiting team forfeits? B, the game is called a no contest? C, the game continues and the injured runner is out? D, the game continues and the last batted out runs? E, the game continues and the most recent batter not on base runs? The correct answer is E. Once a team starts with 9 players, they only need 8 to finish. The game continues on. The most recent batter not currently on base becomes the runner. That is different from the last batted out. We are looking for the batter least likely to bat again in that inning. Case play number 7. The visiting team starts with 9 players. In the bottom of the 4th inning, the left fielder and the center fielder collide and both must leave the game. There are no substitutes. Is this A, a forfeit because they do not have 9 players, B, a forfeit because they do not have 8 players, C, a no contest, D, the game continues? The correct answer is B. The team cannot provide the minimum 8 players to continue. This is a forfeit, and a forfeit is regulation regardless of the number of innings played. Case play number 8. The visiting team starts with 9 players. In the top of the 5th inning, B1 grounds out and pulls his ACL trying to reach first. There are no substitutes. Is this A, the game is over because they do not have 9 players? B, the game continues and B1 spot is an automatic out? C, the game continues and B1 spot is skipped? The correct answer is B. The game continues with 8 players. When that spot in the lineup comes up, an out is recorded. Case play number 9. The visiting team starts with 9 players. They lose 1 to injury and continue with 8. In the 6th inning, another player arrives. Can he enter the game? A, no, the game already ended. B, no, once at 8 you cannot return to 9. C, yes, but only if he was on the original lineup card. D, yes, regardless of whether he was on the original lineup card. The correct answer is D. A team playing with fewer than 9 players may return back to 9. It does not matter if the player was or was not listed on the original lineup card. Case play number 10. The visiting team bus is stuck in traffic and will not arrive by the scheduled start time. Is this A, a forfeit at scheduled game time, B, a forfeit after 30 minutes, C, a delay of game penalty, D, determined by the state association. The correct answer is D. There is no hard rule here. This is determined by the state association. In most cases, you'll be told not to forfeit and to wait, sometimes for quite a while. Again, our job is to get a game played. So go ahead, get comfortable in the locker room or at your car, because you're going to be waiting for that team bus to show up. Case play number 11. At the end of the 4th inning, the visitors lead 5-4. The visitors do not score in the top of the 5th. In the bottom of the 5th, the home team scores 1 run to tie the game and has the bases loaded when the rain begins. The game cannot be resumed. Is this A, the score reverts to 5-4, B, a regulation tie or suspended game, C, a no contest or suspended game? The correct answer here is B. The home team tied the game in its 5th turn at bat. That makes this a regulation game. Because the game is tied when called, it is either recorded as a tie or suspended depending on the state adoption. It does not revert to the previous inning, and it is not a no contest. So there you have it. That's our review of how a game ends. If you found this video helpful, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and you can find more umpire educational content at umpireclassroom.com and in Referee Magazine. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the field.